Hello and welcome to this Learn Flask by Create and bit.ly clone from scratch series. So, what are you going to accomplish after watch this video? You're going to have basic knowledge of how to enable user to register, log in, and log out using database and Flask. Then what you are going to do is you can able to shorten the URL, just like a bit.ly, which is a URL shortener. Then we are going to be able to store URL in the local storage if user didn't log in, where we will display on the user's dashboard if user does log in. And we're going to design REST API, and we're also going to write some unit tests for our Flask application. And finally, we're going to deploy it to Heroku. Some prerequisites that you should have to be able to watch this video is you have some experience with Python and Flask. You have some basic SQL knowledge. We have some basic JavaScript knowledge specifically on local storage. And that's it for Learn Flask by creating a bit.ly clone from scratch. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the video and hope you learned something useful. Thanks for watching. Today we'll build a project in Flask called a bit.ly clone. So, just in case you never visited bit.ly before, I'm gonna show it to you. So if you go to bit.ly, you will see here is like the dashboard. So basically, you could like create a really long link. So you can paste your long URL here, and it will automatically generate a short URL for you. Okay. So we're gonna create a website similar to bit.ly. So our project will have 5 main points. First is user should be able to register, log in, and log out in our website. Then they obviously need to be able to shorten the URL. After all, it's our main purpose with this website. It's able to store the URL in local storage while JavaScript if it's not logged in. If logged in, store URL in the user's dashboard or in the database. Able to keep track of analytic when user uses the URL. So these are our goal to accomplish. So we'll work on the first part. User can register, log in, and log out. Alright, so dependency. The only dependency is Flask, which you can type pip3 install Flask to install this Python module. Create following files. First is our app.py, so this is where our main Flask file will be live in. And we also have a helpers.py. So helpers.py is another Python file that's keep our app.py clean, like some helper function in some sort. We're also going to create a db.sqli3 from a database. We also will create a folder called templates for store our templates. For now, our templates are going to only have layout.html, register.html. We will have login.html. We will also have index.html. Alright, so that's our setup for the project. Again, it's app.py, db.sqli3, helpers.py, templates directory. Inside of templates directory, you have index.html, index layout login, and register.html. Okay, so now now we're gonna add following like boilerplate to our Flask application. From Flask, import Flask. From helpers, import star, which means import everything, and then import SQLite also. Now we can connect to a database. So to connect to a database, which we didn't talk about, we just talked about some basic SQL. to connect to a database, what you can do is first you need to establish a new connection, which you can say con equals SQLite3.connect. Put your put db.SQLite3 here, and then we'll say check same thread will be false, and then we're gonna say c equals conda cursor. This is create a new cursor. Basically, you need a cursor so you can execute SQL commands. And most importantly, app equals Flask __ name __. Alright, so now in our layout.html, we will add the following content. So for this is like the boilerplate for doc.html, HTML, head, whoops, body here, to get start with. And then we also have a title. We need a title. Let's call title block title and block body. We're just gonna say block main. And then end block here. And finally, gonna put these just in case we need to use them for the JavaScript stuff. Alright, so from Flask, we're gonna import session also, import redirect, maybe also URL4, render template, render template. And now we finished this, let's go ahead and set up a database. So in here, I'm just gonna say open. So we'll still use our DB browser for SQLite to set up. Table users, ID, user ID, primary key, auto increment, email varchar 255, password, just do the text. Okay, let's go ahead and run this, make sure. Oh yeah, integer, forget about that. Okay, let's go ahead and write the change, make sure click on that button. And now we can close this window. I don't think we're gonna use it. Alright, so first is we need to think about how can we register a user. So to register, the first thing is to not actually worry about this Python file. It's actually talk about register.html. So we need a form that user be able to fill out to log in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to first is extend layout.html. Then this is template inheritance. Register. So we really need technically 3 fields. So form, alright, so gonna paste this here. We're gonna fix some indentation error. So generally use of tab is 4. So this would be much better. Yeah. Okay. Now up this. And now what we will do is I'm not gonna have a checkbox here. We will create a checkbox later. And now I'm gonna create fields here. Now what I will say is email, password, confirm password, password confirmation, either way. I'm not going to worry about change ID just yet, but I do need to add name for each one. So name is email, name is password, and then this name is confirmation. Alright, so I'm now gonna make sure our action set up to set register. And so we'll handle register in register route. Message going to be post. So that's, I believe, is all we need to do for register. And now let's go add following route information. So first, so we need to go out create a register with a function called register, taking no parameter. And then here I'm gonna specify we're gonna accept two methods. Oops. Two methods. One is get, one is post. And then if request method equals get equals post, usually say that, which means we'll get the form. Whoops, yeah. And also import request here. Otherwise, I'm just gonna say return render template register.html. So that's about it. For our initial setup. But how do we actually handle it when users submit the form? Well, actually, let me go start this application. By the way, since we don't have an index route, by default you will see for not found. Don't worry, just go /register route. Export Flask debug. We need to make sure it has our debug mode on. Now I can see a form, a really bad form. We don't even have an H1 text in what form it is, but just understand it's a register form. So if I say fill someone at example.com, someone, now if I click submit, you will see it doesn't return response because we said paths here. Here's a pseudocode that we can follow. Alright, so the pseudocode is written like this. Check. So I'm actually going to use this hash mark. So check if the form is valid. If valid, proceed. Else, return an error. So basically, we need to make sure the user fill out all required field, and then make sure the password confirmation matches the password. And then second, we will say check whether email already exists in our database. If exists, return an error. Else, proceed. And number 3, you're gonna hash the password. So in case our database, some hacker hacked into our database, our user's credentials still will be secret because it's hashed. We'll talk about hashing when we get to there. And then we're gonna say, I'll just hash correctly. So insert the row and then return success. So that is our basic process. So return success, well, we could just say return registered successfully. Alright, so let's start step by step. First is check if the form is valid. So we really have two things to check. First is check the password. So if request.form.get, recall that's how you get a form field that is in a post request. So then what we will say is we need to make sure I have all 3 fields: email, or not, request. If not, so we will say if not. So if we didn't get this, essentially, request.form.get password, or not, request.form.get confirmation, we will go ahead to return error. So return please fill out the fill out all fields. How to spell required suddenly. And then if the form is apparently, so since I already returned it, we don't need to do else, because yeah, since we already returned the statement, so we don't need to double check whether it's false or not. And then we can say if request.form.get password doesn't match. So I'm checking, is the password, is a confirmation password same to the password itself. So we say return confirmation doesn't match password. Alright, and then if valid, proceed. So if it passes these two levels, then that's mean okay, it does valid. So now we can move on to our step number 2, which is check if our email exists in our database. So how to check if an email exists in our database? Well, we can execute a few SQL commands, but the way we're going to use is we're going to select user that's email is equal to the email that user give to us. So for example, we can check if email exists in a database. We can execute following command. By the way, c.execute, execute the whole can execute SQL command. You can say select star from users where email equals email. So email is request.form.get email. And then, so notice that you see I execute, just kind of execute some native SQL command. And then you notice I also use the placeholder. So with a colon, it's like how you assign variable in some way. You can see later I provide the variable in the dictionary. The key is the variable name. This can help us to prevent SQL injection. And then we need also use that fetch all. So this is going to give us a list, as you can see here. So, and then it's going to give us a tuple if it has some value. So tuple is just going to be the column index number. So since I select star, it's going to be user ID, email, and password. Alright, and then what I will do is say, we will say exist, and then we will say if length of exist is not 0, then that's mean a row exists. Then what I would say is, I will say return user already registered. Since if it doesn't get any result, which we should get if the user doesn't register, which should get the length 0, which means shouldn't have no tuple value inside. But if it has tuple value, that means it does have the row exist. Alright, now we're gonna keep going. So we're now gonna hash the password. So in here, we're gonna import some other modules. So I'm gonna say from worksuck dot security import check password hash and generate password hash. Basically, these obviously going to generate password hashes. And then also note that there is an existing issue with worksuck, so you need to execute following command. So you probably need to execute following command. So pip uninstall worksuck, and then pip install worksuck version this. So this specific version should work because there's some worksuck issue happening. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and then hash the password. So hash the password is really simple. So we're gonna say password hash equals generate password hash, And then what we will say is password equals request.form.get password. And then notice that we also need to provide a salt. So this is like a method that we will hash in. We will use this specific method that is called, okay, this is pretty long to type, pbkdf2 SHA-256. I don't know why it's called that actually. Now what I would say is we also need to provide the salt links. Just gonna say 8. Alright, now it's gonna go generate a password hash. And now what we'll do is we're actually going to insert the row. So to insert a row, all to do is execute some basic SQL command. So c.execute insert into user. So just going to create a new row. Email password. Not really password because we're using password hash. We're naming password anyway. So values, email password. And then here you're gonna provide dictionary. Email is request.form.get email. And then what I would say, whoops, not from form. To get the email, they also need to provide password, which is password hash. And now make sure you this is really important. Make sure commit the change. Because it's like click on that little save button. If you don't do that, it's not actually pushing to the database. And then every time you're doing a command similar, actually make modification to database, such as insert or update, you need to make sure that you actually commit the change. And then return success, and that's it. Okay. So, pretty cool. And then, alright, there you go, fix all the error. And now, what we can do is, we will just go ahead and register. So let's go ahead and try the register command. Alright, email address someone at example.com, password, submit. Now I can say I registered successfully. Now I actually do need the terminal because do need the DB browser for SQLite. I'm just gonna open it. And now if you check the users table, now successfully we see a user registered. Great. Now what if we want to log in a user? Well, now we're going to create a route called login. This video is going to be pretty long, I guess. Login. So, first of all, we're going to make sure our form is correct. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to copy. helper.py. Login. Here we will say email address, password confirmation. Don't need password confirmation. That's probably the only thing we need to change. Alright, so that's the HTML template we're going to use. Simple bootstrap. Now what we will do is we'll still go through, let's create a new route. So at app.route /login def login, and then by the way, make sure you have login here. So now we'll have some pseudocode. Actually, before pseudocode, let's just make sure our method working. So method is get post. If request method equals post, and then otherwise just gonna return the template that is called register manipulation. Alright, so now let's go through some pseudocode we're going to use for this wrap. So first is check if the form is valid. If so, check if email exists in the database. Next is check the password is same to password hash. By the way, once you hash the password, you can't unhash it. So what we will check is hash the new password, the login password, and then check the hash with the password here. As you can see, it's like a bunch of hash. I don't even know. Bunch of hash. You and return success. That's 5 step. So check the form is valid. This time it's even simpler. So if not, request.form.get email or not request.form.get password. We're gonna say return. Please fill out our required fields. So check the email exists in database. So I can say so user equals c.execute, select star from users, where user ID, email, equals email. So provide a parameter, email is request, form.get email. Now I'm gonna say .fetch all. Yeah. Actually, we should say fetch 1, but fetch all should also work. So if the length of user is not 1, then return you didn't register, or you registered twice, which shouldn't happen. And then what we can say is check the password hash is same to a password hash. Check the password is same to password hash. So what we can do is first, since it's a tuple, so we can say password hash equals user bracket 0 bracket 2, and then we're gonna say if check password hash, which provide password hash. So password hash first, then request the form.get password. Password, and then equals false. Means it's not true, then return wrong password. And logging user in session. So this is the most interesting part. So we're gonna log the user in using session. So session, can you imagine as actually to use session, we need to use a secret key. So make sure you create app.config secret key equals secret key. Not that secret now. So make sure you have this statement. I don't know why they need it, but you know, that's just how things work. And now we can say session user ID. That's the only thing we're going to store because user ID is permanent. It's not going to change. It's user bracket 0 bracket 0. So get the tuple, get the first element tuple, and then return successfully logged in. Logged in. Welcome, user. And now if we want to get the session, successfully logged in. Yeah, so you can talk about how to use the session later. And now since we're just on it, we're just going to create a route. Let's actually log the user out. So /logout, sorry. Alright, def logout. And then session.clear, so we just deleted all these session values that might exist. Session.clear, return, redirect, so redirect to a page, URL4. So this is like the function name, the endpoint. So I'm gonna say So you're gonna reach log in. Yep, that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and try this out. Someone, is that some email? I don't even remember. Some email. Copy paste here, and then password is please fill out required fields. Oh, okay. I didn't change the route. Yeah. So make sure you change the route. Not register anymore, but log in. Just refresh twice to make sure stuff works. And then let me import. Let me say something I just not. Let me do fill out required field. Good, working. Wrong password. So it's not my password. Wrong password. Good. And now let me type my real password. Successfully logged in. Alright, great. So now if I go to /logout, it should clear out the session. Yeah, so redirect to this page. Good. And now what we need to learn is the last thing. Is we want to restrict a page to log in user only. So now we'll use our helpers.py. And we're not using G. What's I need to do? Get session. Yeah, session. Get user ID is none. So basically, we don't have. So what's happening here? You'll create. I believe these two lines. So this line, line 5, line 6, line 9, line 10 are just some decorate function. But what really stuff is happening is in line 7 to line 8. These two lines. So what's happening here is we don't really need this for right now, but I'm gonna comment this line out. So what's happening here is if you don't get the user ID, which if the user successfully logged in and only if the user successfully logged in, the session will get a value called user ID. This is how could you get it? I'm pretty sure it's a dictionary because we're using .get method. And if it's none, then that means user didn't log in. So we're gonna return redirect URL4. So URL4 just redirect to a function endpoint. So it's a function name. We're gonna redirect to the login function. And now let's go and create our index. Function should be at the top. And since now we import that, so / here. Let's also say login required. And def index. Now let's just return render template index.html. Let me go extend. Oh, whoops, spelled it wrong. So now you can see we use the decorator under the app.route. Good. Now if you go to index, we will go say copy paste, and then I will say here is you can actually get the value in Jinja is the session value using the expression, just using like the same thing like session user ID. So I can say welcome user, and that's it for handling register, login, and logout. So now we're going to learn about how to actually shorten the URL. So first is we will start with a form, just like we did for our register route. And then later we will go through the pseudocode we need. So let's go in our template. Let's create a new template. Let's call it URL. Actually, we'll use index.html for this. So, by the way, for your index.html, if you still add login required decorator, please remove that. And then we will say is we'll create a basic form. For me, since I won't be lazy here, I'm just gonna call. Whoops. C command V. There we go. Indent this. Okay. So then what we'll do is we'll say URL. Alright, I'm just going to change the name to URL, but you should change everything else. And then here, you're going to say, put the URL that you want to shorten. Yep, here. Okay, so now, we will say here, if name equals main, then we'll say app.run host 0.0.0.0 port equals, it's gonna be a string. So you customize, there's a just say _4, pretty sure no one use that, debug equals true. Alright, now if we run python 3 app.py. Alright, so it should work. And now if you open 0, I hope no route after using this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now as you can see, by default set a page like this to put the URL that you want to shorten here. But now what? Well, now what we need to do is actually to see how to process the route. So first off, we will see like an example of bit.ly work. So suppose I got this YouTube video. I don't know why I got that, just like Google's autocomplete. So I'm gonna go bit.ly and I'm gonna create a new link. And now you can see it automatically gives me a 7 automatically generated string. So this is what we will do first. So generate random string, and then in next we will see how to like user able to change it. So in templates here, let's see. Okay, so now we're gonna go to helpers.py, and in here what we'll do is we'll create a new function, and we'll import a default module called import random. Random is a default module. And then we're also going to import string, which is another built-in module. I should put them at the top. That's probably for the pep guide. I think nobody really cares. But just put them here. So create a function called random stir. Take in number. Let's call this digit. We'll say 7. So by default. And then what we'll do is we will using for loop that's going to loop through no matter how many digits it is. So we will say for I in range of digit like character. So we will just support, which is also known as ASCII. So this stands for American Standard Character. Blah blah blah. I don't know what's the double I stand for, but it stands for American Standard Character. And then that's what we use string for. So we will use random.choice. So chars plus equal to random.choice. So this is just like a random number from a sequence. And now we will say string.ASCII letters, which go and get all the possible ASCII letter, which include our uppercase letter and our lowercase letter. And we're also going to include string.digits, which is like 0 through 9. That's all the possibility. And then after that, we'll just return char. So this basically generates some random string. And in app.py here. So now what we'll do is, since I import everything, I do need to explicitly import it. And now I'm going to make a little bit of modification to our database. So to open up a database, I'm just going to open the database. Using this. So we're going to open that in our DB browser for SQLite. And now what we can do is we're going to execute SQL. So you're going to create a new table called URLs. That'll have URL ID. So this is integer. Not going to forget that. Again, primary key, auto increment. And then we also have our original URL. So this is like the URL that we should redirect to after user visits it. And then we will say auto code equals text. So this is like a code that's automatically generated and it's valid in database. We explain what it means valid later. But it's basically similar to URL ID, which this can use to identify individual. But this is not the code we actually use. We're actually going to use this code. So let me go ahead and run this. So this is a code that user will be able to visit and then redirect to this original URL. We're probably going to keep track of some analytic. And that's will be it actually for here. And now what we're going to do is we'll take a look at pseudocode to shorten the URL. So we'll have 5-step overall. So first we will check whether the form is valid, just like when we handling register and login. If valid, we're going to proceed, else we're going to return an error. Second, we're going to generate a random string as the code. 3 is if the while the auto-generated code is already in the database, we're going to keep generating the code until it's not in the database anymore. First, we're going to add this row to the database, and 5 going to return confirm the HTML. So first off, say method equals get and post, and then help. Let me take a look at the index method post. So it's just gonna do an index function. And now what I will say, let's say if request dot method equals post. Leave it here. Otherwise, say this. Alright, if request dot method is post, then what we'll do is see if we could get the URL. Actually, no, we see it. Yeah, so we check the form is valid or not. So recall this is how we check the form is valid or not. So we say these fill out are required. So now we've finished form checking. Now, second, what we're going to do is we're going to generate a random string as a code. That's the second step in our pseudocode. Okay, interesting. And now what we're going to say is autocode, just a variable name, equals random stir. Alright, by default you can see it's digit equals 7, so you don't need to provide any value for that. And now I'm going to move to step number 3, which checks whether the code is indeed already in the database, which means not valid because we don't want to like conflict with other database, with other row in the database. So we'll go do is we'll go ahead and fetch, see if we can find it. So select star from URLs, where autocode equals autocode, or code equals autocode, and our autocode, our placeholder, we're just going to be autocode. And then we're gonna say dot fetch all, so it gives us list. Alright, now what we'll do is we'll see if the length is 0. So while length of code is not 0, I will say autocode equals random stir. So I'll do some copy paste. We will refactor later here. So this basically checks First, it checks the form valid, then next generate random string, search, see if the code is valid within our database. And then, finally, we're going to add it to our database. So you're going to see that execute, insert into URLs. So original URL. Original, yeah. How the code, the value is going to be URL, so original URL, code, and code. And our URL going to be request. Okay, why are you using equal sign? Request.form.get URL. Our code just going to equal to auto code. And now make sure you don't forget to commit it. And now what we'll do is we'll return a confirm.html. Actually, let's just return a success.html for now. And we're going to create a new template. Let's call this success.html. Okay. Extends layout.html, block title, and block success, block main, and block, and div here, we're gonna do this as well. And now we're gonna say, great. Now you can visit your we will say base URL. Do we have a base URL? Yeah. Yeah, we'll also create redirect. So base URL is a constant. That's why we'll use all cap. And then for here is http:// Make sure you're using HTTP. So 0.0.01234/. And this is our base URL. And now once it's success, we'll pass the base URL to the Jinja template. And also the code. Auto code, auto plus code, auto code. And now I'm gonna say great, now I can visit at so base URL and should go directly. Now we can say auto code. Oh, we will implement another route. So we'll say /URL here. So by default, so when user visits /URL, we will try to redirect them. So we will say at app.route /URL. So we will say redirect. And then we will use the placeholder in our route syntax. You can also check out string code. Alright, I would say c.execute select original URL from URLs where code equals code. And our code, surprisingly, is code. Alright. And then we will make sure it starts fetch all. Result. Yeah, for result. Equals 0. It's not 0. It's not 1, I will say. return can't find your code. You know what? I'm just gonna say 44. Not found, and then we will say return redirect. So indeed, you can redirect to a whole URL, either it's external. So it's result 00 here, but click submit. Okay, now I can go to here. So let me just try, see if it's work. Alright, it does work. It does redirect me to that YouTube page. Alright, that's it for this part of this project. So now what we can do is able to shorten the URL. So for example, I'm just going to do a quick recap here using this YouTube video. And then you can click. Now you can see, great, now you can visit your website, new URL here. So copy, paste here. And now you can see redirected to the YouTube. Alright, but what if you want to customize your URL? So let me just use my blog this time. And now you can see this is like random code, right? It's UKJNJMI. But what if you want to customize it? Well, here is what we're going to do today for the user that is given that they are already logged in. So recall that we'll create a function called login. I'm not sure, did I register? Example.com. Just say dev. Alright, so now if I log in, no, dev. Alright, there we go, successfully logged in. Alright, so as always, we'll go through the pseudocode first. So first is we're gonna pick up where we left off, which is here. So this index currently support generate random code. So after this get executed, so specifically before return success.html, what we'll do is check if the user is logged in. We're gonna return a new template called confirm.html. Otherwise, we're just gonna return success.html. And then after the form gets submitted, we're gonna say check valid proceed after an error, and then we're gonna check whether the new user given code is existing in our database, because we don't want to have two have conflict. If yeah exists, return error, else proceed, and then we're gonna update the row in our database, and now we're gonna return a new URL. So that's basically what we're going to do. So first is we'll check is user logged in or not. Recall that we use session object, which you can see here. So we use session object to track here. Now let's go ahead and create the actual HTML template. All right, let's go ahead and create a new template, and then we're gonna call this confirm.html. So this, I'm gonna go ahead and copy from index.html. Because most of the stuff going to be the same, just a little change. So confirm, we can say /update. So the new action going to be update, where we can update a row. And then so the user will have opportunity to change the URL for one time only. And then div class equals URL. So now what we can say, original URL, to just let user know which URL he pasted in, original URL. I'm not going to change our ID even though it doesn't match anymore. Delete this. And then we're going to say we don't need this. Don't need this. And then we just say value is original URL here. This colon. All right, let's go ahead. So let's go ahead and copy this div and then we're going to say new URL here, and then we're going to say new URL generated, and we are going to say we're going to create. So this is going to be input type equals hidden, but the value going to be code. So this used to store the code that user cannot change. So like this is like the auto code, and then we would say is base URL. So it's not at, but it's base URL. These are some parameter we're gonna pass in, and then in here we're gonna say code. So initial value equals code. Alright, so as we're designing the confirm.html, you will notice that we need to pass a few information. Here. Alright, so now if we refresh the page, alright, put this on. I'll probably need to re-log in, but just to make sure. Let's see. Alright, so now it does work. Now what we need to do is to go ahead and implement the update route. So once the user click on the submit button, that's actually all we need for confirm, but just leave it here. Alright, update route, search update, find update function. Alright, the method it can only take seen is posts, and then if you access this route, if you access route by get, so you just manually go to this route, it won't work. And now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and then use the original code, the auto code. So now let's go ahead and follow our pseudo code, set up new route, and now let's go ahead and check if the form is valid. Don't really have any things say on here. New, that's really the function we need. So probably do need this. Let's see, don't need this. Yep. Excuse me, name is new. Yep. Alright. So if not, request the form.get new. That means we don't have the new code we should assign to. Then we'll return says please fill out all required fields. Alright. Now what we'll do is we will actually double check, see if this string is alphanumeric. So by the definition, that we cannot like include some special characters, like we cannot include slash sign, because if you include that, like somewhere in here, then the Flask going to interpret, oh, you want to access a new route, but we don't have that route implemented. So what we can only do is to just limit them to only alphanumeric, which is like A to Z, and 0 to 9. So now what we'll do is we'll use isAlnum function. So we'll say if not request.form.getNew. By the way, you can use request.form and using bracket notation with just like accessing dictionary. Dot isAlnum. And then what I will do is I will return you must provide alphanumeric value. Alright, so now we'll check if the code already exists in the database. So we'll say codes equals c.execute. Select star from URLs, where autocode is not, is not new and code is new. I'm gonna explain what does that mean in just a sec. Now I can say request.form.get new. I'll just soft wrap this. I click on my Option D on my MacBook to soft wrap the VS Code. So this line of code is a little bit complicated, but let me explain this also. So this will return true if it is alphanumeric. Then if it's not true, which means if false, that means this condition will not execute it. Then it's gonna go straight down to here, which means good. But if it is alphanumeric, that means if not false, which means if true, they're gonna execute this. So it's gonna tell you, please, you must provide only alphanumeric value. And now, this line is also a little bit complicated. So what we want to check is a user. We don't want to check. So if the user doesn't want to change the code, which means the autocode must not equal to new. So recall that the code generated same as autocode. So if autocode is not equal to new, and code equals new. So we want to not check if the autocode equals new, but is there any user provided code? And now we will say if length of code, let's just call this code. Let's call this code. If length of code is not 0, then what we'll say is return code already exists. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll update the row. So now what we can say is c.execute. Let's execute update function. So update URLs set code equals new, where autocode equals the hidden field. Equals, let's just call this code. And then let's go and provide all the values. So new is request.form.get new. And code is request.form.get new. Just no, it's just code, I believe. Yeah, so this is just code. Now it should work. So don't forget to commit. So we do make some modification to the database. .commit and update the row. Now what we will do is we will return the success.html finally. So I'm just gonna copy this return render template. And let's go all the way down to here. Let's say success base URL autocode equals request.form.get new. That's really not autocode anymore, but since that's a parameter we get. And now let's go ahead and run through this function. See if it does work. It does refuse to connect again. Let's run this. Hope. Okay. So now we will say, let's just say this. Since we didn't get it, let's just say bootstrap form. Alright, so now, great. Now you can visit this website. Let's try to visit. And now indeed, now we'll redirect to the form page. So today what we're going to do is we're going to store URL in local storage for the user that is not registered. Okay. So we'll go over let me do the quick intro. So now I have basic website working, but what if we want to store the URL? So users don't have to create a URL every single time. So in this video, we're going to implement a function where we can store the URL into user's local storage for the user who didn't log in, and then display in the home page. And this will be JavaScript focused. Okay, so recall that what's gonna happen is the script going to take in here. Actually, before I even talk about that, let's go over pseudocode. We really only have three parts. So we're gonna first is after the URL generated and the user didn't log in. Then we're gonna add the URL to the local storage. Then we're gonna display all the URL. Alright, but before we begin, let's talk about local storage first. So what is local storage? So what are going to happen? We're gonna use it. So we're gonna use local storage dot set item. This is a command we're going to use when we try to cite an item into our database, so like append value to the local storage. Or we can also use to get item using local storage dot get item. Alright, these are the two functions we're going to use. Just make sure you have that ideas, then you're good to go. So now, next, let's go ahead and add the URL to the local storage. So the reason I'm on the success.html because that's when the actual are going to display. So first is we don't need to do this anymore. Then I didn't know this actually can work. Okay, so first what we need to store is we need to store the old URL, which we're gonna pass as old here. So just in case we forgot, in our app.py success. And yeah, so actually, before that, I also need to do one more thing. Is that you're gonna use an if. So I will say if session user ID equals none. That means that means the user didn't log in. Then we'll go ahead and execute this. So this would happen is I will go ahead and say original URL. Wait. Yeah, here. So okay, so old equals request.form.get. Okay, good. So now let me go to success. Now we have this. So this is the old URL we're gonna use. Now what we're going to say is we're gonna get the new URL, which is the base URL and the autocode. So this is the new URL that's we're going to use, and then we're gonna say is we're gonna go ahead now use local storage. So we can say local storage dot set item. Excuse me. So now what we can say is let's just use URLs. So in here we're just gonna say new URL. That's it. So that's really about it for this. Okay, so we don't want only store this. So we also want to store the original URL just for displaying purpose. So use a template language that JavaScript support. It's like f-string in Python. See, not session. Let's see. Let's go delete this value. Let's go ahead, paste it here, submit. Great. Okay, So URL we will say, now we have new URL. So now essentially what we want to do, since this is like globally available, so now what we need to do, since here we need to display it. So let's say not session bracket user ID. It's not session bracket user ID. Fix this and if. Okay, so now what we need to do is just to make sure we get the information. Oh, whoops, shouldn't right here. Script console.log go storage.get item URLs. Alright, so it does work. Now what we need to do is we will go ahead and display this on the home page, which then we need to go create a URL order list. Let's call this ID also a URL. So URLs created. So refresh the page. Okay, pretty good. Let me just add a line break there. Alright. Looks good. So now what we need to do is we'll separate by comma. Here, what's this? Alright, so now what we'll do is we go to application, and now we'll go ahead and delete this. Submit. Good, that's one. I'm just gonna do a lot 3 URLs. Alright. Whoops. Why did I put it there? Sorry about that. Should be put right there so we can split the string eventually. Submit. Back. Okay. Submit. Okay, yeah, so set item. We'll go ahead and get the item first. So if go ahead say if local storage. So this overwritten the first thing. So if local storage.get item URLs equals no. This is a value returned when there's no value in it. Now what we'll say is we can say this. Otherwise, what we'll say is we'll go say dot let's just say yeah, let's just do a one-liner here and say local storage dot get item URLs plus this. Okay. And now it should work, so it shouldn't overwrite the whole thing again. Can keep that. Yep, now it does work. Good. So now what we'll do is we will go ahead and get all the URLs. Oops. Actually, we missed a step. So first is we need to split URLs equals URLs the split based on the comma, and then URLs the length. This should give us array or or list. And then what we can say is this should give us a string. So that's what it's going to give us in each position. So we're going to loop through that array or list. And then what we will say is okay, so this gives us the URL in that position. And now what we need to do is now we need to go ahead and actually start to append. So append is a little bit complicated. So we are going to create some elements. But first is we need to do a split again. Split based on hyphen. And then we'll say this is old URL. And then we will say paste. This is new URL. And since this will scale another array, we need to get these specific elements. 0 is old, 1 is new. And then what we need to do now is actually start appending to the unordered list. So now we're gonna create a text node first. So actually we're gonna create, this is create element. This is not creating, it's not a text node, just a node that's point to a HTML element class in some sort. So we'll call this OI. And then in here we're gonna say we're gonna create a text node. So what do we want to display on this? So document dot create text node, and then here we're gonna say using this notation. So this is under your escape button, in US keyboard. I don't even know how to say it on symbol, but then we can use the $sign. And here we're gonna say old URL hyphen new URL. So sometimes you can imagine that we don't really need to do this step if we format it correctly, because we're just doing extra step. But this can help us when we want to do like more complicated stuff. So like not just display using that. And then now we're gonna say is we're gonna append this text node to the node, which is append this text node to the line item. And then we can say document. Now I'm gonna do that have ID, yeah. So now I'm gonna go ahead and choose the URLs. So let's get the elements of URL. So this basically get this HTML elements, and then I'm gonna say dot append child, and then we're gonna say no. So this basically add this new outline we created to the old unordered list, as far as I believe. And then we'll go ahead and say if URLs equals no, which means it doesn't have element exists, we practically don't need to do anything. We'll do this when it's not no. So if it's no, then we'll not do anything. And now you can see if we go and create a new element, so like we're gonna create a new bootstrap, note that we cannot change this and then log in, and now you can see this automatically stored in our local storage. So you don't need to store this in database and return it. This is just some cool front-end stuff you can do, some storage. And that's it for storing URL in the local storage. Okay, so let's keep going. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about user's dashboard. So let me just get this Flask app running. Python 3 app.py. Okay, well, I don't know, is it still running on the background? I think it should be quit. Okay, so now let's just do a quick recap. As you can see, if you didn't log in, which then you'll be prompted to this. If you didn't log in, this is our index page. So where you can say, okay, so let me shorten this URL, and then you can see, since I didn't log in, I cannot change it. We go back to home page. As you can see, this stored in the local storage. Okay, so let's talk about our user's dashboard. Okay, so this takes me about 4 hours to make. It's actually really simple. I will explain it a little bit since it's just some basic HTML, CSS, and some jQuery JavaScript. So let me go ahead and put it here so you can see what it looks like in full. That. So now you can see this is how it's look like, which compared to the actual dashboard, nothing like this. But this is my best try to mimic a dashboard like this. As you can see, I use some Ginger syntax since it's like in the code pen. It won't like actually loop through. I also use an icon from font awesome. We have a URL 4, URL 1, base URL, URL 3, and 4, URL clicks, 6 clicks. I'm going to explain everything by go to my bit.ly dashboard. Okay, so we will try our best to mimic a platform like this. So you can see we have a date here, we have a timestamp here. We will not implement this part since we're going to take user's name. And then you can see this did something really fancy. It get the title of the blog, which we didn't do. You could get the title of the blog, but we'll not do that. It's just going to be this original link. By the way, this link is completely fake. And then, as you can see, when the URL is too long, it's automatically ... And then, same apply to here. This is how this jQuery works. Basically, it's checking if the length is 45, because 45 roughly is like a good amount of number for the full screen. And then I'm just gonna replace this ... But the link still works. We have 3 buttons. I'm not gonna implement share button. We'll just implement edit. But yeah, that's about it. And then you can see we also keep track of clicks. So we are not gonna implement this chart. We are not gonna implement this part. But yeah, that's the best try to mimic a user dashboard like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So first thing first is I will try to explain that's what's happening here. Works, and then I got a few scripts here. This is like which handling jQuery should be the most current version of jQuery, Bootstrap 4.5, and this is a font awesome kit, which as you can see, this is used to generate this little mouse icon here. And now you can see this is display info. Gonna talk about when we get to there what this is for. And then you can see this is standard a Bootstrap grid layout. It's like a 1 to 2 column layout. So like this is column 1, and then this is column 2 and 3 kind of combined together, 1 to 2 layout. We also keep track of clicks. The reason I use this is because that's the position it's gonna give to us. So, and then you can see we're gonna loop through this. And then you can see this is like on the right hand side what's happening. So creating here, URL, blah blah blah, span ID. Yeah, so you can see number of clicks. You got copy edit button. So let me go ahead and copy the HTML to here. Just gonna call this dashboard. body. Wait, okay. All these will go to head. They will go to header tag. Yeah. The script I don't need to see right now. This can remain on here. Pretty sure the stuff in div should be well controlled. Alright. So now if I just want to see this, so I'm just gonna copy paste and then put it here. And now you can see this is how it looks like without any CSS. Well, not any CSS. I mean, I do have some inline CSS, but yeah, without like external CSS. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy the CSS, but before we do that, we actually need to create another directory. Going to call it static. And this is where we store all the static files, such as CSS and JavaScript. So we're going to copy this, and then we're just going to call this styles.css. You will name it better, like dashboard.css. And this, I'm not going to create another JavaScript file, so it's not too long. Let me see. Okay. Doesn't need to be on head. This should be at the end, actually, because that's when I want this to run. So you can see I didn't inherit the template because I some custom stuff. And then, like jQuery, it's a Slim. I'm not sure what Slim works. And then you can see in here I used a template literal. And then now if we go ahead and oh yeah, I didn't link the CSS, so nowhere to link it. Link rel style sheet to type href slash static slash. So now I'm just gonna create another route in here. Just gonna call this slash dashboard. Now let's just say return render template. Dashboard.html. So let's go over the pseudocode for what I'm going to do in this video. I'm gonna change some parts. Let me wrap this so I don't have to scroll. So first is if a new URL is generated and the user is logged in, we're going to change how we store URL based on the changes we made to the database, which we didn't do that yet. We're just going to do it in a little bit. And instead of return success.html, we're going to return dashboard.html. And eventually we're going to create a route, which we already did. The sole purpose of that route is just to return this template. So when the user logged in, what I'll be doing is instead of return successful login, just return return redirect slash dashboard. And then let's go ahead and make some modification to our database here. So we're gonna execute following SQL command. You probably didn't see this. It's called alter a table command. It's basically instead of update a single row, it's update the entire table. Update URLs, add date. I don't know, can I do this? I don't think I actually can do this. Add timestamp. I probably cannot do this. User ID, integer. Was it formatted correctly? Okay, yeah, I already have date. I don't know why that happened, but that was syntax error. Okay, well, I don't know what just happened, but okay. Either works. Okay, so we add three new column: date, timestamp, and user ID. Pretty straightforward. And then what we're going to do is when the user is logged in. Okay, so let's go ahead and say how we process the URL. So if user is logged in here, then what I would do, return confirm. So really, only logged in user can have update route, because if they didn't log in, they cannot even update their URL. So which then I will say here, update URL. Notice how I inserted. So I need to fix how I. So it's index. It's really hard for me when I'm doing like a full screen because everything is larger. Okay, so don't need this line anymore. You know what? We're just gonna add to everything. So values, we're gonna say date, timestamp, user ID, and then we're gonna say date, time, user ID. Date. Okay, so now I'm gonna implement some function that's able to get us date. So let me just Google an online Python compiler or interpreter, and then here's what I'm gonna show you. So we're gonna go import some default module. Just double check, see if we have. We're able to import time from datetime import date. Okay, so these two are the default module. Don't worry about install them. So first is we're gonna get today's date, and then this is gonna be today equals date.today. And now if we print out today, what we will see is we will see today's date printed out in this format. But since we are technically in United States, we don't print out format like this. We print out format like so like month, date, year. That's what we try to do. So technically we can read it, but we're just gonna change it to this. I think this is like how international use it, but we're just gonna change it to the American format, so to speak. So we're gonna change it to date equals today.start from time %m /%d /%y. So this we are going to give us is the actual printable date in this format. So this changed a date object to based on this parameter. So this tells you how should we format it, and then change it to a string. So if we try to run a type of this, you should see a string. All right. So this is how I get today's date. And now we're gonna get a pure timestamp. So I'm gonna say ts equals time.getTime. Oh, sorry, it's GMT time. And now if I try to print out ts, now I can see it's like a time object here. And then what we're going to do is you're going to change it to timestamp. So change to readable format. I'm going to say timestamp equals to time dot start from time is, I think it's small x big X, small x big X ts. Alright, now as you can see, it changed the time to, I don't think it's really, yeah, it's not get the current time. I don't know how to change it to different time though. But that's basically what we're going to do. This is a time function. So we're just gonna copy this and then paste it here. Paste it above this. Gonna fix some indentation error. And now what we can say is we can say date is date, time is timestamp, user ID is session.get user ID. So user ID is nullable, which means it doesn't have to give a value even if user didn't log in. So which then we will return render template confirm. So this will confirm them, and then which then we will do the update. So in update, what we can really say is we can add a login required because they must be logged in to do that. And now what I can say is return not success anymore, but I can just return I can just return not even a template, return redirect to dashboard. And now in dashboard, we're going to pass in the URLs. So we're going to say c.execute, select star from URLs, where user ID equals, I'm just going to call this UID because I'm being lazy. And in UID here, I'm going to say session.get user ID. So I'm going to call this at login required. And gonna pass this into Jinja. And then if we go ahead and refresh this, okay, yeah. Okay, I wonder. Oh, okay, yeah, it's gonna be connected. Okay, and then if we try to run this again, and you're going to prompt me to log in, and then I could just type dev no such a column user ID. Okay, first I forgot to fetch all. And to fix that. Oh, I forgot to write change. Yeah, don't forget to write change, guys. Because okay, well, let's try that. Now it works. Yeah. So now just empty board, but we're gonna fix that later. So now if we go ahead and go to index route, let's go and create one. Now then just call this bootstrap form 445. Okay, now as you can see, this get created. I don't know why this had 2 links. So, okay, so a few things we need to fix. We don't have base URL passed in, so you're gonna go ahead and pass the base URL in also. Let's try to refresh this. Now you can see this works. This do works also. I don't know. Okay, I need to let's fix some formatting issues. So, like this is supposed to not show this. Okay. You know what? We're not gonna do this jQuery thing. And now everything works. And that's it for user's dashboard. I know we didn't finish all the features, but all the features will do available at the GitHub link down in the description below. Alright, so we'll come back to another part for our bit.ly clone Flask project series. So, today what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through you how did I design an API or application programming interface, or more specifically, it's a REST API. So, as you can see, I write a short doc. So a good API always have documents. So this is short docs explaining what is the base URL. So since it's dev version, it's my localhost. And then you can see all the code you might encounter, and then all the route available. So I'm going to specifically go over the 3 routes. We have an stash API custom parameter, and then they are all GET request. So just going to add it here. They're all GET request. And then you can see first is check whether a custom code already exists in our database or not. Because if user want to generate a URL with their own custom code, they probably want to know is the custom available or not. So this will return a true or false in using the JSON. So actually it's going to return code 200 if it's available, error code 400 if it's not available. And then this route is slash API with URL parameter. So this will give you substitute a URL parameter. So our API will know what URL to shorten. And then this is going to create a new shortened URL by generating random 7-digit alphanumeric characters. Return 200 with URL key. So it's going to say code 200 URL. With the URL here. By the way, all of them are in JSON request. Otherwise, we'll return 400 if the URL is not valid. And then it's also good. You can also substitute your own custom URL here. For example, you can say slash API question mark URL equals at custom equals to. So this is going to say it's going to generate a short URL by user's given code. Return 200 with URL's key, otherwise we'll return 400 if the URL is not valid or the custom code is not available. So let's go ahead and try this out. Alright, so first what I will try is I will try the custom code, and then I'll just try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you can say code 200 description, your custom code is available as of now. Or if I want to try some code, now what we'll do is we will register, and then we'll say URL equals https:// freecodecamp.org, and then we can say, yep, and then you could say, okay, so now a new URL generated, and then you can say some other URL parameter. And now if I navigate to this URL, you can see I redirected to FreeCodeCamp. And then what I can do also is I could provide a custom parameter by just type custom here. And then I can just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 since this is available. And now you can see generate a new URL for me. And now if I copy, paste it here, you can see it redirected to FreeCodeCamp as well. But now if I try to do this again, you'll see code already exists. Where if I give a not valid URL, you can see your URL is not valid. Or if I use custom, now you will say your custom code already exists. So that's how it looks like. Now it allows me to go over the code with you. So, as you can see, I implement a route called API. Since we don't have other requests, the only method we're gonna set is get request. So first is we'll say if we only get the custom parameter and we didn't get the URL parameter, that means the user want to check the custom code is available or not. We'll just go ahead and execute from our database and try to find is their code matches the code that user gave to us. If the length equals 0, that means there's no row matches the request, which means user's custom code is available. Then we're gonna return using JSONify response, which is a function that is built into Flask. And then you can say it turns this like Jinja, like how do we pass parameter in render template to a JSON response. So you can see we provide with code is 200. Description is your code is available. Otherwise, which means the custom code is not valid, we're going to return your custom code that already exists. Next, we can say if not request.args.getURL. That means if passes this command, that means whatever we want to do, we need to have the URL command. Either only provide URL or provide both URL and custom. And then we can say if it doesn't, we will say place URL required field with 400 error. Otherwise, we will have validate URL function, which I specified in helpers.py here. You can see it's a bunch of regex, and then you can read them in detail later. And then you can see it's basically return true or false, true if the URL is valid, false if not. And it's going to return 400 if the URL is not valid. Otherwise, if we didn't get the custom code, then we will just automatically generate a new URL for them. And then as you can see, we return URL here. If they do have a custom, as you can see, we'll first check does the code already exist. It does. Then we'll just return 400. Otherwise, we'll return 200 with the new URL they give to us. And that's it for designing a REST API. Sorry for I cannot do it live because I encountered a little bit issue with recording. So I didn't record that part. Now I'm just briefly explain to you. And also all the code is available down in GitHub down in the description below. Thanks for watching. Alright, so welcome back to another Flask tutorial with our project series Build a bit.ly clone with Flask. Alright, so what we did in last tutorials and last parts and so on is we designed the component. Now our little project have quite a lot of features. For example, user can log in, register, and log out. User can also shorten the URL, and it's going to display the local storage or storing the user's dashboard if logged in and registered, of course. And then user can also use our REST API to access to generate dynamic URL via our API. So now what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to write test to our Flask application. So why do we need test? First is quote something that doesn't have a test or doesn't covered by a test is broken. While it's by anonymous people, I found this in the official Flask documentations about testing. What I want to say is this is not exactly correct because our website is working even if we don't have any tests, but it's not far from the truth either. Is you will need automated tests. We're in a big tech company. We're just in a little project really good just to know how to test, because use testing, automated testing can immediately know if the feature you added broke some parts or not. So this is what I'm going to write today. We're going to briefly talk about testing. And then we're going to talk about unit test. Then what we're going to do is we're going to write a few tests for our Flask app. But I'm just going to write a few, and I will leave some features for you to work on your own for some exercise. So first is how do we actually test? Well, we'll use unit test module to test our Flask application. For example, to use unit test, you can just say import unit test. It's pre-com with Python, so no worry about pip install it. And then what I can say is I can create a new class. We call Python's an object-oriented programming language, and can use class. And then we could just name this whatever we want technically, I guess. So I'm just going to name it basic test case. And then we can say unit test dot test case. So I inherit the test case class from our unit test module. And now what we're going to say is we're going to create a new function where rather it's a property or method, and then for every part that you want to actually test, make sure you have a start with test underscore. This is how unit tests know that, okay, you want to actually run this as a test function. So what I will say is test equal. You probably guess what that function is. As always, we have self. And then what I will say is self.assert equal 5, 5. Okay, so what's happening here is it's automatically inherit from here. So you can see we didn't even initialize anything. And then it just says self.assert equal. So what this function is taking, I think it's 2 parameter, and then it's check whether the 2 parameters are same or not. And then what I can say is if name equals main unit test dot main. And now you can say here. So don't worry about the comments here. You won't get it when you actually run this Python file, because I'm running the IPython console. You get the error like this. But I can say it's a run one test in 0.000 seconds, which means super fast. And then it says okay, so no problem with our test. But imagine that if you want to change it a little bit. So instead of saying assert equals 5, 5, which 5 obviously equal to 5, I'm going to say 6. I'm going to say 6, 5, which obviously doesn't equal to each other. And now if I run this, you can say, okay, so you got lots of comments here. As always, we'll ignore a exception occurs, system execute true, blah, blah, blah. We'll ignore that part. Just take a look and say F, I think it stands for fail. And then tells you which function fails here. And it's going to tell you traceback. And then, which is a Python standard traceback, you can see self.assert equals 6, 5. And then you can see assertion equals raised. Assert is a command we will use when we test our Flask application. It basically checks whether a condition is true or not. So as you can see, since assert equals checks 6 equals 5 or not, obviously 6 doesn't equal to 5, so assertion error raised. So that's basically how our testing framework works. And now we will go ahead and write some test. So in this part, we will have a test following feature. We'll test register, login. We will test API, and then we will test shorten the URL. Actually, we're gonna do this first. Okay, so these are the functions we need to test. So first is we need to import unit test. If I could spell unit test. And then what I could say is I could say from app import app. So what this line doing is it's importing app variable or function, but in this case, app is a variable from app.py. That's how could you go think about this line. And then so if you change the app.py state to application.py, what you say here is from application import app. Or if you change your Flask app's name to like well, we can just say Flask app, then you can say import Flask app here. Okay, so now what I would say now is I will write some test. So as always, I will start by create a basic test class, basic test case. So this we inherit from unit test the test case, and then we will say it's first we'll do a setup program, and then this going so you can think setup just as how do we do underscore to underscore init to underscore. So we just initialize some self variables. So self.app equals app.test client. So luckily for us, Flask, one of the Flask dependency or WorkZug actually have a way to test using our test client. So this is just going to emulate a Flask application, and then we can test it. So first is we will test register, and then before test register, we will create a register helper function. Notice didn't start with a test. They're gonna take self, and now what I will say is self.app.post. So it's most straightforwardly, you will think, yep. So this send a post request to this route, and then I'm gonna substitute some data in. Using a dictionary, email equals email, password equals password, confirmation equals confirmation, and then we can say email, password, confirmation here. Alright, so by default confirmation is actually none. So what we'll do here is we will check to some test login, test register, and then it's just going to take in self. So what happening here is I'm going to do some tests with our register, and then first is we'll do register without password. So self.register, email is fake at example.com without password, so we're just gonna leave it empty. And then what we'll say is we'll assert B, please fill out all fields in rb.data. So it's happening here, we call assert just check as it's true. If it's false, it's going to raise an assertion error. And then notice that B is stand for byte. So rb.data basically gives a byte value, but it's similar to string. So we'll put a B here just to simulate. So make sure it's a byte value as well, so not string. And then let me get a terminal ready. So now what I could say is I could just run this. I can say Python 3 test.py. And now you could see, whoops, it's not working because guess what I forgot? I forgot, yeah. Name equals main unit test. Spelled that wrong again. Dot main. Whoops. And now, just give a sec. Run that Python file again. And now you can see, and error happened saying assertion error, non-type has no type data. This is weird. Let me just say confirmation. Let's give confirmation a value, so ABC. And then let's run this again. Python 3 test.py. Okay, so we will see, is there anything wrong with this? Oh, okay. I forgot to return here. Yeah, so if I return, let's try that again. Okay, 5 terminal. That's great. And now you can see run one test in 0.008 second, I believe. And now it's okay, succeeded, which means this test gets it successfully. And now what we'll do is register. We will check all kind of cases that user will encounter, such as register without username. So we can see here, and then we will say register without confirmation. Not sure. And then we will say, just change the example for legal purposes. And then we will say also is register with wrong confirmation. So fake example.com. And then I could say fake without confirmation. So this. Okay, and then we'll say register with existing credential. So I can say dev. And then finally we'll check register success. So with wrong, so I would expect wrong confirmation here. So I probably will not test login and shorten the URL, because these two you guys can really sync on your own, and then this will available on GitHub. What I really will do is I will also interested to do API testing, and then please fill our required field wrong confirmation with existing user, right? And then this should be register success, we would say. And then register success. Okay, now let's run these series of commands. I will not promise you that all is successfully running, because I may forgot some stuff here. Wrong confirmation. You know what? We'll just say wrong. Or is this wrong at all? Confirmation. Okay, yeah, this is really long. Copy here. I'm gonna paste it to here. So make sure it's in the string. And that's, oh my god. Oops. Python 3 test.py. Assertion error user pretty sure in at least should be in. Okay, it's not in. Success. Okay, register successfully. Alright, gonna paste it here. And then if we try to run this again. Wait, did I paste it wrong here? Wait. Does it already exist? Probably exist should be in at least. I cannot remember what keyword did I give to them. Okay, registered. User already registered. So we'll need to know all these keyword. Oh my god, why is it still not working? Okay, so the confirmation thing. Alright. Try again. Okay, register success. Register successfully, I believe. Oh my god. Or did it already get registered? So this has a bug we need to fix. Is every test we need to change a user. Yeah, user registered, so what we'll say is full. Some random words I came up with. Alright, so now I can see test run successfully, but now this test we need to change that when we run that again. And now what we need to, what I want to talk about briefly is about how can we test a REST API. So define another test. Let's call test API. And then here what I would say is we will say rv equals self.app.get. So just test one keyword and you should get the idea. So /API custom. So recall this is our API route. And then what we will say here is we will say custom equals hello, for example, and then we can say dot get. We can say dot get JSON here, and then what we will say now is we'll assert stir 200 in stir rv.get JSON code. So I think hello shouldn't be registered, or not registered, should be available. I want to create a new Bash terminal. Alright, let's go ahead and run this comment right here. Okay, 2 tests failed. Yeah, I don't know why I did that there. Let's see, we need to change this every time. So just a code. Then once we get this to work, shouldn't worry about that. And now you can see we say run 2 tests in 0.440 seconds, and it's okay. Okay, so that's what we'll do for our testing. As you know, I talked about really briefly, but I will add more tests gradually through my GitHub repository. If you want, you can check it out into the description below. Also, if you want to write your own test and then eventually merge it with mine, just open a pull request and we'll approve it once I test it. But that's it. So thanks for watching and see you next time. Alright, so welcome back to the final part of our bit.ly clone, creating a bit.ly clone from scratch using Flask series. Alright, so in the last part, what we'll do is we will deploy this web app to the internet. We will deploy it using Heroku, the most popular platform. So first, you can go to Heroku.com. If you don't have an account, make sure you sign up for one. You by default get for free 5 free apps. So you can see I have 2 apps already here. So to create a new app, just heading over to here and click on create a new app. Now choose our app name. I'm just gonna say bit.ly clone Flask. Alright. So now what I will say is we will go back to our code editor and we'll go create a new file. The file must look like this. Capitalize P, then proc file without any extension. And you can see this little Heroku icon here. This file is specifically designed to Heroku. And then you can see put the following comments here. It's called web (gunicorn) app app. So now what is happening is it's going to tell the Heroku what dyno to install. So we're going to use gunicorn, which is how we can run this Flask app. And now in the requirements.txt, which we don't have one, we're going to create one for now. So we're just going to create a file called requirements.txt. And then in here, what we'll go ahead and say is we'll say Flask. Then we'll say workzug. And then, yeah, let me double check the app.py to make sure that works out. Okay, remove that for some reason. Okay, good. So it sure works. Alright, so that's, and then we'll put the gunicorn in here. And then what we'll do is we will make commit to our GitHub repository. That's the easiest way to get set up with Heroku. Not via any Heroku commands, but just do via GitHub repository. So now what we'll say is I will git add all this, git commit. I will say added proc file and requirements.txt, and then git push version master. Alright, so now we should get this set up. So now we're going to say is connect to GitHub, and then we will go ahead and say bit okay, so I'm just going to allow it has my organization here. and then refresh this page. So you guys know how to do that. Only if you have organization, make sure you have correct setting. And then, wait, did I guarantee? Yeah, I grant the wrong app. Okay, let's refresh again. Make sure you granted the correct organization. And then what we'll say is, should have it now. And now we'll go ahead and say connect here. Go hit connect. And then we will say enable automatic deploys. And then we'll go ahead and deploy our master branch. Now you can see it's running. Wait a sec. Look, it's installed all the Flask dependencies. And then you can see the proc file. Now it's done. And if we go ahead, it said it's deployed. Now we'll double check. And indeed, our Flask app deployed to the web. Alright, so thanks for watching, and then really glad that you joined the series with me. And then, yes, go ahead and feel free to twist this project and make it put on your portfolio or something. And thanks for watching. See you next time.